Hey, it's Hipster GW. So I wanted to build off a little bit of our interaction system. Sort of Schedule 1-ish is what it started out with, but then we went around and learned how to draw out from the first person character to draw a line trace. So whenever it hits an actor, we can then show the actor's name at the bottom of the screen. You can see we go over to these cubes. We made it so it only interacts with specific actors that we choose. But here's what we're going to go over in this video is we want to do some sort of an not an interaction system, a pick up system. So you want to be able to go up to something, click E, and then be able to pick it up. And so what we're doing here, I didn't want to build a full inventory system. So what I did is we have a dollar amount in the top left corner. Okay, hipster from the future. Apparently I had my screen just to the right. So the entire video I work on this wallet here where you have a certain amount of money. You won't see this in the demonstrations, but just take my word for it that whenever you go and start interacting with something, you actually see the money going up. So sorry about that. I'll be aware of that in future videos, but just trust that it works, and I'm pretty sure that you can see all the code. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. All right, I'm kind of going off the assumption that you have already watched the last two videos on Unreal Engine that I've done, where I go over how to actually set up what I call the look at system. So we have the first person character here that you can look around, and on the center of the screen it does a line trace. And then in the most recent video, we went over how to actually customize the interaction functionality. So whenever you go and hover over somebody, you could see their name at the bottom, and then I click the E button, and then we get some sort of interaction functionality from them. But if we want to actually do a pick up system, we can move with this system, this interact system. And also I think I want to point out that if you haven't watched those two videos, feel free to keep watching, and hopefully you'll learn something about how to implement it yourself, especially if you're comfortable with these. But if you're more of like a more beginner or intermediate, I definitely encourage you to go back and watch the last two Unreal Engine videos. But yeah, I wanted to utilize the look at system. So whenever we're looking at something, you can click the E button, and then you can actually pick it up, and we'll do not an inventory. What I want to have happen is we'll pick up some money. So we'll have like some dollars here, and then we'll add it to your inventory, or I should say like your wallet. So let's just start by creating a base class for money. And so if we think about it, what do we want it to have? Well, once it for sure needs to have the same tag and the same interface as these two guys, because we definitely want to be able to interact with it. We want to be able to look at the money, click the E button, and then get the money. So let's do that, and then we'll add another interface and another tag for, I'm just going to call it pickup or pickupable or something like that, to basically implement the similar logic, but specific functionality for things that you can not only interact with, but that you can pick up and put in your inventory. So I'm going to go here and just create a blueprint. I'm going to make it an actor, and then we can just call it, let's call it money stack. And I'm going to do an underscore BP for blueprint. And so inside it, we're going to need a static mesh. I'm just going to use the cube, or no, I'm sorry, I won't use a static mesh. You can if you have your own custom static mesh. For this, I'm just going to use the default cube. So we'll do a cube here. I'm going to shrink it down a ton. Let's do a ton. Shrink it down a whole ton. Now, in order to get some good perspective, I'm going to drag it out into the scene and see how big it is. So let's drag this out. You see, maybe just a tad. We'll do just a tad smaller for a stack of money. So we'll do just a tad smaller this way, a tad smaller that way. We'll leave it in the Z-axis because that's going to be like the height of the money. And let's change the color to, let's see if there's any green materials. All right, it's really bright green. Obviously you would want to customize the green, but we're gonna have really bright green money here. But of course, if we go up to it right now, you won't be able to interact with it because we haven't given it the tag. So let's go into class default, find the actor tags. We're going to give it a tag of interactable. And then we also need in the class settings to give it the interface of interactable as well. So we'll go, oh no, we do want implemented interface. We want interactable interface, compile and save. And then whenever we have this event call interact, we can just say, let's just do a print statement for the moment, and we'll do pick up money. And I think I I really hope I didn't open Visual Studio, and I'm not going to open some C++ code. Let's pray that doesn't happen, because that's going to put a big stopper on the video. So if we go back here, we should be able to go up to it, and you can see now we see money stack whenever we're aiming at it, and then interactable actor over here. I click enter, and you see we have pick up money, and whenever we're looking at the interactable actor, it says I'm being interacted with. So pick up money, that's what we want to have happen. So let's go here. Actually, we don't necessarily need to have a, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we're not going to bother by adding an extra tag. We could. So my original thought was, and I'll explain my logic, and I don't think we need to do it now that I'm thinking about it. I was going to have an extra tag here that says if it's interactable, true, and then we can call interact. But then I was going to do like if it's interactable and after this true statement, pick upable, then we call a separate function. But I'm not gonna worry about that for the moment. We're gonna do this in maybe like a slightly less efficient way. But here in our first person character, let's give us a certain amount of money. So we'll just make it a float, and then we'll call it wallet. We'll say wallet. And then this will be a float of how much money that we have. And then let's just start out with, say, like $10. And so that let's just add it to the HUD. So if you have your own HUD, if not, you could print it or something like that. You don't have to follow this exactly if you're comfortable. Let's add a text element to, let's just say like up here. Yeah, we'll have the top left. That looks good. We'll call it wallet amount. And then we'll have, we'll just have like 100 there. So I'm going to do an impromptu widget tutorial too. So then we have 100 there. I'm going to, at the beginning of my UI, you see here in the last video, we made it so that it would disappear whenever you were looking at the interactable object. Okay, I'm gonna run stuff on bind, which runs stuff on tick. So this is where it's gonna be a little less efficient, but I'm gonna do it just to make our lives a little bit easier, since this isn't really a making efficient UI tutorial. So I'm going to cast to BP first person character. We're going to plug in by getting the player character, and then we will save it here on event construct inside our user interface. We'll save it to a variable, and now what we could do is we can bind this with a function. Now we could bind it straight up to the it's not showing up. Why is that not showing? It's just a float. Why is the float not showing up? That's weird. I thought it would show up here. It doesn't matter. We want to create our own binding because we want that $sign to show up. So we're going to go here and go create binding. And then this gives us the benefit of getting our first person player character, and we could just make it, we could do a validity check. This will make sure if we run a frame where we actually haven't cast to the first person character yet, that we still, that we don't get some sort of error with our UI here. So we'll just do, I'm just gonna put error here to make sure that if we see this more than one frame that we actually do have a problem. And then here we can do get wallet. This is gonna be our float. We can plug it in there, and then you see we have this little text to float. Oh yeah, what we wanna do is we don't wanna do a regular text string. What we wanna do is a, do we call it append? Or we do a text, is it a text literal? I've done this before, make text literal. No, we wanna do format text. Yeah, I'm remembering, format text. And so what we could do now is put variables inside our text. So we're gonna start with a leading $sign, and then we will do dollar amount. Here, I'll do it like this, dollar amount. And here we could plug in our float to text. And then here we can customize that we have 3 fractional digits, but we want our 2, and we want 2 always, so then if we have pennies, we can actually see the pennies. This is the amount of digits before the period for a fraction, and so it can go up to 324. That's going to be more than enough for what we're trying to do right now. So we have this wallet amount, and then if we look up here, we see we always have $10. I think there was like one frame there where it probably says error. You can't even really see it. So now what we can do is go here. We'll interact with it, and then picking up the money, we'll do 2 things. We're going to add the money to the user. Here, let's just do that first. Let's go and add the money to the user's wallet. So once again, this isn't about doing the most efficient system. You would want to do some sort of interface or something here, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cast to the character. So I'm going to literally do the exact same thing that I do in my event construct here, but I'm not going to save it to a variable. We're going to have it so whenever we get the call interact, which means that the user is interacting with our stack, what we're going to do is we are going to get the wallet, and we are going to add money to it. So we're going to do plus, and then what do we want to do? Well, we could have a variable here that is, money amount. And then we can make this a float as well. Oh, that's a balloon. Let's make it a float. Let's make it, and let's just have the default be, say, $10 as well. So we will add that variable to the wallet, and then we can set the wallet to the, we'll set wallet amount to the result. So we'll add this to that, we'll get that, we'll set it, and then we'll do one more thing, but I want to show that it works here before we do that. So we go up to the money stack, we click E, and you see that money is going up. But here's the thing is we got the infinite money glitch. We got the infinite money glitch. We got the Federal Reserve glitch. So what we can do here is destroy, why did I say that weird? Destroy actor, and then we're just gonna destroy self. So this should run before we get to this because it's a function, so it should run linearly. Boom, there we go. And then you can see we can have stacks of money. Hell yeah. This is how we're building a Schedule 1 type system. We can go up here and get these fat stacks of cash. Boom! All right, then let's do one more thing. We can actually make it so each stack is a different amount. So here in our variable for our money stack, we can make it instance editable. We can make it expose and spawn too in case we actually do spawn it. We'll want to edit the amount of money that it is within the spawn function. But then we can go and leave the default at 10, but then what you'll see is here on the map, we have a variable here that pops up for default. We could change the category if we wanted to as well. So we could, do, where would it be? Here in the category is default. So you could change this if you wanted to appear somewhere else within this part of the world viewer. But then you can see we have 10, we can make this 15. We have, 10, we can do 1. We'll leave this one at 10, and then we'll do the one on the left to make this like, what is that, 10,000? So that one's gonna make us rich. So then we'll save everything. Go over here, you see we got 25. we got 26, we got 36, and we got $10,036. So hopefully you learned a little bit something with that. What I want to do in the next Unreal Engine video is make it so whenever you look at something, you can then customize what shows up on the screen. Because right now, we customize it so whenever you hover over it, it shows the name of the item in the world that you're looking at. But look at this. We don't want to have interactable actor, interactable character. Like if this was a name, we would want to change the name. I did go over this a little bit in the first Schedule 1-ish video. But like with this money stack, we want it to show like the amount of money that it is so you know what you're about to get whenever you pick it up. So I'll do that in the next video, but hopefully you found this helpful. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.